A large amount of yardage, very short passes, extremely effective.
That's something to keep an eye on. We talked about Kelsey Amy at the beginning, but how about Laura Gebhardt, and what does she provide to this Penn State team?
Well, you're going to watch out for number 5 in the midfield. She has really good vision, a very hard worker, back tackles, all the skills you want in a field hockey player. On the flip side, if you look at who she's matched up against, Nikki Parsley for Northwestern.
Nikki Parsley, who is back, missed 5 games for the Cats. Good news for Northwestern. She is now back in this lineup. She played in the Junior Pan Am games and missed the 5, but now she is back to play for the Cats. Take a look at Northwestern's starting keeper there. You saw a quick glance at Amanda Worth, who actually got a last-second start here in goal. She replaces Maddie Carpenter, who we are told injured herself in warm-ups. How can that affect Northwestern here today?
Well, that puts a lot more pressure on Northwestern's midfield and defense. When you're in that position, they do have some youth back there. You just have to be all the more protective and disciplined with your individual and team defense, not allow as many shots or opportunities coming from Penn State.
We're talking about Worth, who has about 105 minutes of playing time here this season. Carpenter with 658. Definitely a discrepancy here between the two keepers. And when you watch Penn State, when I talked to Char Moret, I said, how would you describe their offense? She said fast. We saw it right out of the gates, and Northwestern with an opportunity.
And I think the way that Northwestern moves the ball laterally and up and down the field is also something that is extremely effective with them. Chelsea Armstrong is extremely fast and quick. And then look at this, creating another player-up situation like we've seen them do previously this season. And this is a midfield that's been working together for numerous years. They haven't graduated anybody from this Northwestern team. 11 freshmen on the team as well. So a lot of this team, you get a mix here. You get a lot of newcomers, but you get these other players that have been gelling together. And the way that I saw them perform early in the season was the best that I've seen the Wildcats play at this early.
We will see about 5 to 6 freshmen get significant playing time on Northwestern's end. Tracy Fuchs said, you know what, that could change. I'll leave it up for debate and for judgment later. We'll see how they do. Take a look at Northwestern's starting lineup there. Talked about Nikki Parsley. Talk about Tara Puffenberger and what she can add here for the Cats.
Well, she has very good field sense, and I think she's a very good dynamic player playing at the right midfield. A lot of attention is going to be dropped on Chelsea Armstrong, number 3 on the forward line. And so when that happens, other players get freed up, and Tracy Fuchs talked about how Puffenberger really has been almost the X factor this year, has stepped into that position where Armstrong is double-teamed, triple-teamed. Puffenberger's been stepping in great to that role, and she was an extremely effective player and productive before she came to Northwestern.
Her coach, Tracy Fuchs, even compared her, said she's kind of even similar to Kelsey Amy, which is probably a pretty good compliment, I would say.
Let's put them in a head-to-head race.
I'm all for it. Again, when you talk about Penn State's pace of play fast, what do they like to do on offense?
Well, they're very quick decision makers. So as soon as they get a free hit, they self-start the ball right back into play, and they have very good passing combinations as well. They're on the 45-degree angle. They travel in 2s or 3s, create 2v1, 3v2 situations. And they're also very good at swinging the ball through the center, through Laura Gebhardt, number 5, for Penn State.
Hannah Allison. Out to Abby Furman. Finding Lauren Purvis. Penn State coming off that emotional weekend. Coach Moret, we mentioned, with her 400th win here at the school. She had already earned 400 career wins, but last weekend it was an emotional time. You called that game, Kara.
You saw her get very emotional after the game, but she wasn't the only person that you saw with elation and joy. You saw the team like that as well, and we've talked about this on the network, but just the amount of alumni that she has come back for as well during the season. for Alumni Weekend, these are kids that continuously give to the program their time and energy. Tara McGuire donated a scoreboard at Penn State's facility. So you see the impact that Shar has on these kids during their time in Happy Valley, but also afterward. And I just think that speaks to her testament as a coach and how much she really instills in these kids, and it sticks with them for a very long time.
We'll go into more at halftime, the impact that she has and the impact actually that she felt. I thought it was kind of neat how she said the next game that they played was against Michigan, and Michigan actually gave her a card before that game.
Well, I think there is a great respect among the Big Ten Conference between the coaches. Shar Moret talks about how she, is texting with other Big Ten coaches, congratulating them on wins. I mean, that's very particular, I think, to a smaller sport such as field hockey. They're all extremely happy with the competition that you see in the Big Ten Conference, and then you can also notice that too when you take a look at the national landscape and the talent that this conference has.
One of the coaches she actually texts back and forth is Tracy Fuchs of Northwestern. Said she even texted her after Northwestern beat Duke and Wake Forest. What's standing out to you so far?
Well, I don't think any team has really established any type of momentum yet. This is a point in the game where you're realizing, figuring out the opponent's press, whether they're doing it aggressively, what options they're taking away. Tracy Fuchs talked about they want to be mindful of Kelsey Amy. On the flip side, Shar Moret said that they're really going to be very tight marking on Chelsea Armstrong. So whether that's going to be the case, if you really do want to mark up man-to-man, have a person on that one player at all times on the field is something you really feel out.
Go, Cat.
Northwestern with the early 2-1 shot lead here this afternoon. And again, you already see the impact of Nikki Parsley on the self-start. She'll be a focal point here for the Northwestern Wildcats. Warren Purvis trying to get things started here for Penn State.
And Purvis is a player that's very good when she receives the ball, getting her head up, going on different angles and distributing it quickly, outletting the ball, coming out of Penn State's defense into the midfield.
This is dangerous. Kelsey Amy with her best look.
And that's a skill that she's very good at. Kelsey Amy is coming off in front of the net, shooting off of her right foot, kind of off balance. This is a shot she can typically get off, but look at the way that she's able to go on this hard angle, get a ball, a lift on it, the foot speed that you see. She was ready to crank and wind up. Another interesting matchup with number 11, Kelsey Thompson, who's one of the more defensive midfielders in Northwestern's lineup.
And Kelsey Thompson, in fact, moved back to the backfield. Because of that, a shot and score. Laura Gebhardt.
Gebhardt is a contributor at all sides on the field. In the midfield, she has had a tendency now this season to get inside the circle. A one-time shot, so that's just getting your feet prepped, your body prepped, and your stick prepped. So the time that the ball's coming to you with substantial speed, you can get a good swing on it. Nice placement in the far corner. This is where Northwestern, I think, is facing some difficulty with not having Maddie Carpenter in net, having a new goalkeeper back there. You really have to limit any opportunity that Penn State can have. Leaving a player unmarked, especially as one like Gebhardt, who contributes every single game, assists or goals, leaving her unattended is not beneficial.
That's Gebhardt's 5th goal here this season. Shar Moret called her one of the most skilled players beyond Kelsey Amy. You saw she has a rocket of a shot when given the opportunity. Kelsey Amy, stick work on the wing. Again, Penn State starting off a little bit slow, but here picking things up in the last few series.
Well, they definitely have streamed some things together and in their offensive end. And the thing that's critical for Penn State to stay in this game is to play at this fast, high pace throughout the whole 70 minutes. I think that's crucial in them coming out with a victory.
What other keys do you expect here for Penn State?
Well, I think defense is going to have to be big on both sides. Penn State's defense is very disciplined. They're well communicated. You can never give that forward midfield, Parsley and Chelsea Armstrong, you can never give them too much space and time. And Penn State has been doing very well on executing their corners. You see them have a lot of goals and a lot of second opportunities, third opportunities coming off of their corners. They need to continue to do that.
Northwestern trying to possess. Kelsey Thompson pushing forward. And Northwestern keys.
Well, I think that one of the things that is not an advantage for them is their outletting play. They do have some youth in the backfield. Going against Penn State's press, that's hard to play against, and being smart with the ball. Northwestern is on the tip right now of having substantial success in their season. When you're ahead in the game and when you have the ball, making the right decisions, not forcing passes, not doing anything that could jeopardize your lead.
Northwestern, they're going to count that one.
Well, this is interesting rule this year. It's called an own goal, and I think that's what it was if it was not deflected off a Northwestern attacker inside the circle. If it goes off of somebody's stick inside the circle, it's a goal. So that's very hard and tricky to defend against. But check out that ball that was coming up to the top of the 25. A lot of traffic inside the circle, good distribution. Coming inside, great pass by Charlotte Martin coming from the top 25. Low, hard sweep, wide open at the front of the 25 up there at the top.
Charlotte Martin's second goal here this season. And there was almost like a delay even on the field after it happened. Everyone kind of looked at each other.
Well, sometimes if the ball is not touched in the circle, outside the circle, you typically let it go.
Penn State with another opportunity. That was Gebhardt again trying to create. So we're all tied up at 1. We thought there might be lots of scoring. These two teams, 1 and 2 in most of the scoring categories here in the Big Ten. Penn State.
You know, Charlotte Martin is an interesting player. After talking with Tracy Fuchs, said she was a forward in high school and now converted all the way to defense. That's a big change when you're coming from the high school to collegiate level. The thing that I think benefits players with that is their mindset, knowing how a forward thinks. But I think excellent play for number 12 in the center backfield so far this year, this game.
Yeah, we had jokes with her that forwards don't have a defensive mind at all. And I was a striker in soccer. I told her to be careful what she was saying. I want to give forwards a bad rep.
And you know, it's also interesting, number 19, Kaylee Pohlmeyer on Northwestern's offensive end as well at left forward. She was a defender when she first came to Northwestern, missed out last season with a knee injury, and now she's playing at left forward when she came all the way from a sweeper in the backfield. So, you know, it's interesting. I think it really goes to show the intellect of a coach sometimes when you come into a program and you figure out where a kid can fit in. Maybe initially a role player, but by the end of it, could be a team's leading scorer.
Northwestern, one of the few opportunities it's had here to play at Lakeside Field. Began the season on the road. 10 of the first 11 away. And the Cats looking for another opportunity here. Tied at 1. See,
Number 3, Chelsea Armstrong, and when she's in the circle, she's going to get off a shot. She's going to find an accurate pass or a sweep. Did a nice job there with the ball in front of her, her back's to the net, and just getting her feet and her stick prepped. So she got a nice one-time on it, found the feet of Laura Gebhardt. Northwestern now with their first corner of the game.
First corner of the game for both teams. Armstrong with the fake. And everyone looked like they had eyes on Armstrong on the corner.
Well, you saw Puffenberger wrapping around, being that option play, looking for the drag pick. Look at the way that Penn State is able to counter, outlet that ball.
Kelsey Amy looking for Jenna Christmer. Take another look.
And you initially thought Armstrong was taking that swing. Puffenberger looking for the far post. Gets a nice lift on with the drag flick. It's very hard to get the ball at a high angle and get some lift on the ball. The more dangerous ones, I think, is when it comes low from the boards and below, just looking for a tip. But Puffenberger doing a nice job there with executing that corner.
That was Northwestern's 5th shot opportunity here for the game. Gotta love the hustle. Tronsolidi, Caroline Tronsolidi with the hustle and the dive on the turf. That can't feel good.
Well, you know, that is one of the reasons why the water the turf. A lot of people ask that. It adds this type of element to it, much like slide tackling in soccer. It adds that element in field hockey where you can dive after those. And it looks like Pohlmeyer there limping off the field unfavorably on that knee that is taped up in the back.
A redshirt senior for Northwestern. Out of Maryland. Played almost 15 minutes here in the first half, already tied at 1. 2 top 10 teams. Laura Gebhardt recorded the first score for Penn State. And Charlotte Martin recorded the second to tie it up at 1 for Northwestern. The tackle. Laura Gebhardt has been active so far here in the first half, creating things for Penn State.
Well, Penn State also creating that double team, adding the second and third defender. When you have a player like number 30, Nikki Parsley, carrying the ball through the midfield at the defensive end, it's important that you put immediate pressure on that. But if you're going to do it, hey, let's put double the pressure on it. Come up with a nice strip on the ball, and Laura Gebhardt, nice clean tackle and gets a shot.
Go purple.
Officials want to back things up here.
Penn State's press right now, their forwards are not being too aggressive. They're letting this ball swing around the backfield. Lisa McCarthy is a freshman coming out of the backfield. Good distribution skills, gets passes off quickly, but Penn State kind of laying back a little bit on that forward press.
Keep moving, keep moving.
Under 19 minutes to play here in the first half. There's an instance of the double team for the Lions.
And you know, they do so well with moving in that double team. When you're going in for a double team tackle, there's 2 things that you're coming up with, a ball or a free hit, because you're committing 2 people to 1 person. So being disciplined, well communicated in that situation is vital with having successful double teams and triple teams pending on the situation.
Take a look at Nikki Parsley. Doing on both sides of the ball, our coach says. Cats are happy to have her back, but running in trouble there on the right side. Here comes the transition again for Penn State. Kelsey Amy and her speed, she can show it off there in the open field. Lauren Purvis.
Well, we're typically seeing Kelsey Amy coming down the right side of the field. That time we saw her coming down the left side of the field. Penn State executing on both sides, left and the right, and then Purvis wide open in the center and on the right midfield side, Northwestern's defense has to be aware of those open Penn State players.
Already Amanda Worth getting tested. There's her third save here of the half. Amanda Worth is the senior. Maddie Carpenter, who has gotten more playing time this year, a sophomore for the Wildcats. Purvis again trying to create. And with it locked at ones, we're gonna head to a short break. Amanda Worth getting tested early. Her third save. Here the half. We'll restart things after the short timeout. Normally doesn't happen, but because of TV, coaches get to regroup with their teams and their players.
Any little extra minute or seconds that they can get with coaching.
They love
action,
it.
They love it.
Lena Phillips now in for Northwestern. One thing about field hockey, it's a constant flow of rotations and substitutions.
Well, and also I think as the game has developed within recent history over 2 to 3 years, we've seen lacrosse, I think, sometimes take on this persona of being a little bit more like ice hockey. Kelly Monty-Hiller, the coach at Northwestern, likes to do line changes in between her midfield, her forwards, and her defenders. Field hockey, I'm starting to see that a little bit more, especially when we have a rule this year with the green card. If you're issued a green card, you must go off the field for 2 minutes. The other team plays a player up for that short amount of time that looks a little bit like a power play. So you start to have, I think, a lot more rotations happening in the game than ever used to. It's also played at a very fast pace, faster than it has been when I was in college playing. So I think that requires a lot of physicality and physical fitness for these players. So the more resting minutes you can get benefits a team.
Take a look at Charlotte Martin, number 12 there. She has Northwestern's lone goal here this afternoon. Again, to re-emphasize, we were saying if this was 2011, it would still be 1-0 because of that new rule.
The own goal has been a very interesting rule implementation this year in NCAA field hockey. Seen it happen a couple times, and it's almost kind of like this non-event because maybe players are in shock that the ball went in, that it was deflected, tipped. Sometimes you don't even see it. So it's been a little different this year. As a defender, if you're receiving the ball inside your defensive circle, be extra careful there that you don't fobble it up.
Northwestern will set things up at the hash marks. Sort of a dangerous pass there in the backfield.
Well, you see now Penn State's press really cornering those outside backs into the certain angle of the field. And when you have forwards and midfielders coming at you when you're trying to put the ball in play, it gets your head down, it forces you to make a bad pass, it forces you to make inaccurate passes, as you can see in that situation right there. So Penn State's doing a nice job right now with putting the pressure on those young outside backs that Northwestern has, which has been a concern, I think, for Northwestern's defense.
Penn State always looking for a high pace of play. Kelsey Amy, you don't want to have her have possession there.
Penn State's a team that leads the Big Ten in corners per game, just a little bit under 9 corners, and they're very successful on these. They have good role players at the top. They have good stick stoppers. You see Kelsey Amy, number 7. When she sets up, as we can see here, someone on the short side, they like to do that short pass from the inserter coming to her. It's kind of her signature player move. And if you take a look at the left side of your screen, number 11, Griswack, is a drag flicker. So if she's coming in behind Hannah Allison right in front of her, she has that skill, that element that she can add there as well. A lot of threats that Penn State has on the top of their circle.
This is their first corner opportunity. What can they do with it? Amy with the attempt. Well, Northwestern survives that opportunity. It was something that Coach Fuchs said, hey, we have to definitely limit Penn State on its corner opportunities here this afternoon for us to even have a chance to win this one.
And the most threatening one is that pass going to Amy Parsley, doing a great job flying on that defensive corner unit. Getting out there quickly, quick feet, kept her stick down. Number 30, Nittany Parsley. Look at the acceleration that this player has when she comes out of the circle and flies, as you call it, flies immediately to whomever has the ball. It's scary. It's actually terrifying.
Northwestern had survived without giving Penn State a corner opportunity really in the first, with 13 minutes remaining here in the first half, and now they got back-to-back corner opportunities. Amy again, the nifty move, it trickles in, score it, Kelsey Amy. Get an artsy.
Well, Penn State, one of the things that they're good at as well is not only earning the corners, but earning the second and third chances that they have within the corner. They've already seen Parsley come out hard, so this is what you like to do when you get corners in a game. Sketch out and scout the opposing team's defense. She knows that Parsley's coming hard to her, so what does she do? Does a little pull inside, has extra time, and then looks for the far post. I like to see that in Penn State's corner offensive unit.
Now we're told that the goal actually is being waved off. You can see the reaction by the Penn State players. Come on!
The only thing that I can think as to why that goal was not counted, that it may have hit in the body part, foot or leg of somebody inside the circle.
We'll take another look. See if we can see what had happened.
And it looks almost as if it went off the foot. You see there
Taylor Harold.
Of Taylor Harold, and if it hits the body part of the attacking team inside the circle, it is a 16-yard hit coming out. Goal does not count if it goes in. But, you know, if you're an attacker inside the circle, coaches tell you this, even if it hits your feet, you still celebrate anyway, because you try to convince the ref that it was a goal. I was convinced. Harold did a nice job there. She sold it.
Right. Well, even just on that play, I mean, you saw the nifty stick work, too, by Kelsey Amy, and how creative she can be in the circle.
Well, I think Amy also, at this point in the season, and people know that corner that Penn State runs, especially to her, she's got to predict that that flyer's coming out quick. And then just to have the composure and mental quickness to recognize that, hey, let's change up the speed, let's change up the pace a little bit and get far more time on your shot.
You saw the numbers on Amy, a 2011 first-team All-American. She was the Big Ten tournament MVP. Had a couple of goals against Michigan in that championship game. Northwestern intercepts into the circle.
Tara Puffenberger, number 21, doing a nice job there on that press. Typically, we see her on the outside of the field. You see number 21 almost in the center type of midfield position right now, working along with Chelsea Armstrong.
There's an instance, too, where Amy's dropping back. Take a look at this last chance by the Cats.
It just goes under the stick of Hannah Allison. And then good positioning by Northwestern's forward attack.
We haven't said Chelsea Armstrong's name very often. Why?
Well, I think you have to be cognizant when we talked about of Penn State taking her out of the game, making sure that she doesn't get many touches on the ball. Tight marking. Lauren Purvis is an extremely athletic defender, number 10 for Penn State, making sure that they don't have room to do much of anything, because if you give a threat of a player time, space, and ability to gain speed, not really benefiting your defense.
Armstrong with just one shot here for the Cats. Also a first-team All-American and Northwestern's all-time leader in points and goals scored. Sort of an interesting story with her. You see there the two-time Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year. Came from Australia, took a visit to campus when it was summer in Australia, and her flight was delayed because it was winter here in Evanston. And they thought there's no shot that she's going to come here. No shot.
Well, Armstrong, I think also when you have a player that has that pedigree and success, it's a nice ability for Northwestern this year to share the wealth around the team, you know, as opposed to her who typically was the scorer, the assist maker, everything else in between. Puts a lot of pressure on you, I think, at a certain point in your career. And to have some other role players come in and help her out kind of relieves her a little bit, take on a new role. If you realize that you're getting double teamed or marked up, what does that do to the opposing team's defense? Well, it distracts them a little bit. You can start to spread the field out even when you're not touching the ball, giving other players on your forward and midfield line opportunity to create, space to run into, off-ball cutting to execute, things of that sort.
Take a look at Tracy Fuchs in her 4th season. We talked about how she scheduled all those away games, and she said she did it purposely because Northwestern, one of the few schools still on a quarter system, they actually began school yesterday. So she wanted to get some of those away games out of the way when they weren't in school. She made the comment that, yeah, they're going to have midterms here in a couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. So she wanted them to be at home, sleep in their own beds when they're taking those tests.
Well, I think it was a big testament to the ability of Northwestern this year to succeed early on in the season, and they really challenged themselves early. The first 8 games were on the road. 6 of those were against ranked opponents. 10 of their first 11 games away from Evanston. So I think coaches always say it's all by design, for sure.
It's all by design when they win.
But, they also had an extremely successful road trip when they were in California. One of their signature wins was beating Cal, because that has a lot of reading into regional placement when come the NCAA tournament, playing against Stanford, some other powerhouses from the West Coast. And, when you're on the road for a week in a time zone that's 2 hours different, it's nice when you don't have to come back and go to class, the following Monday, when you can rest and recover.
And like I said, when Northwestern had that win against Duke and against Wake Forest, who was one of the texts that she got from Tracy Fuchs? Well, she got a text from Char Moret. Made sure she congratulated her. She said, you know what? When a Big Ten team beats an ACC team, that's deserving of a text. Penn State thought it took the lead there. The goal was taken away off the foot of Taylor Harrell. The Lions looking to create here. Kelsey Amy likes to head for that end line. Centers it. Seems like Amy's always looking for Taylor Harrell there lately in the center in front of the net.
They kind of look alike too. I think they have similar playing styles. Harold and Amy, and Harold a year or two younger than Amy, and I think has really modeled some of her play off of Amy. They're both very fast forwards on that line. Quick hands, a lot of excitement and energy when you watch them play, a lot of emotion that you see.
So it goes beyond blonde to blonde? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there's some more to it.
Tied at 1 here. Both goals coming early here in the first half. Laura Gebhardt getting the first score for Penn State, and Charlotte Martin getting the equalizer for Northwestern. Not probably the opportunity Penn State wanted on that possession.
Well, Klingler has been a nice addition to Penn State's forward line this year. A transfer from Syracuse, who, by the way, is the #1 team ranked in the land right now. So you're bringing in a player that has played for a program and brought it along to its #1 ranking where it is right now. She's been dynamite in the past few games on a 5-game point streak. So of recent, this player has really been hot. I think she has good field sense. I think she has good game sense, and she sets herself up nicely when she's in the offensive end, gets her feet positioned well, gets her stick positioned well, and creates a lot of opportunities for her teammates.
Talk about opportunities. Penn State looking to create there. Then you see Klingler. To create that offensive possession, though, you saw Laura Gebhardt with a one-handed tackle go into how effective she is with that kind of technique.
Well, I think her individual defense is dynamite, and it's great to see a player work so hard on the defensive end to come up with the ball and then quickly get rid of it, quickly create an outlet pass. In Gebhardt, you will always see this player work hard on both sides of the ball. We see her inside the offensive circle. We see her inside the defensive circle. We see her being instrumental in the midfield defense. That also goes to show the physical fitness that she prides herself in and that Charmerette's team is characteristic of.
Whenever there's a breakaway chance, it always seems like number 7 is leading the way there for Penn State. Ball kind of ran away there for Kelsey Amy. Under 4 minutes to play. 3 shots today here for Amy. Again, you see a lot of white jerseys surrounding that ball.
Nice tackle there by Griswack. Coming in good with her stick. Her timing on the tackling is something that really separates her as a defender compared to others.
See Catherine Franklin, number 5 for Northwestern, getting some playing time here towards the end of the half. Nikki Parsley, number 30 in purple, kind of working her way to the right and left side, back and forth for Parsley.
Well, it's the Northwestern's midfield. You'll see players jump all over the place, and that really is enabled because these players have been playing together for such a long time, where you can switch it up what side of the field, whether you're up or you're back when you're in the center, and work off of each other, be on swivels, be almost like a binary star system where if one's up, one's back.
Did you just say binary solar system?
Binary star system.
Oh, star system. Speaking of academics, you found a nice little nugget. The first 100 students in for this game are finish it.
they get a free t-shirt, and then they're eligible to win a quarter's worth of academic books. Only at Northwestern, handy. Lisa.
You know what? You know what that is? They understand what their target audience is.
Well, no, we talked about this. A quarter's worth of somebody who's a literature major compared to a biomedical engineer must differ. Must.
And you might figure, too, a lot of books are online now, right? I guess you'd have to purchase them still online. You guys wouldn't have a deal like that at Michigan?
Well, I think it's always important to get the student body involved in some way, shape, or form. And, it's interesting because there's only very few schools in the country that operate on the quarter system. And I think that has an impact on the athletics on campus. Stanford is another one. And when you have that, their non-conference in their fall sports, their non-conference early season schedule, they can really travel a lot and they can be competitive with it, and they have that time to recover and rest.
Green cards issued for Katie Andrews of Penn State and Nikki Parsley of Northwestern.
They kind of cancel each other out in that sense. We talked about the rule change and a player must leave the field, but, they're playing even strength to each other right now, 10 on 10.
Lauren Alwine had a wide open look. And another corner here for the Lions with under 10 seconds to play here in the half.
And you see Lisa McCarthy arguing with the ref. Her stick was in good space to block that shot. She didn't obstruct Alwine's swing or hit or anything. She basically put her stick in front of the path from the net to the ball. I thought it was a clean tackle.
The time has expired, but the penalty corner will end the half. And at what point do the officials say this play is dead?
Well, once the ball leaves the circle, exits out of the circle, then the play will be over and they'll go into halftime.
Out to Amy. Penn State converts at the end of the half, and the Lions take the 2-1 lead.
Well, Klingler does such a nice job with setting herself up off on the left post. We've seen a couple goals from her this season. Allison doing a nice job of distributing it down to Amy. And then the deflection, Klingler, that is a low angle, low percentage shot. And Klingler doing a nice job one-timing it. It's fun sometimes to get that ball up in the air and take a good smack on it.
Penn State got one taken away, doesn't matter. They have one right back, and the Lions are leading it 2-1 here at the half. We'll have a special note on their head coach when we return. That's dead even, Carolens.
Well, also a difference here is the penalty corners. Penn State having a lot more opportunities and looks. Northwestern has to get on the offensive end, I think, in that production. Penn State also outscoring their opponents 35-8 in the first half. Nice job by our research department.
We pay them big bucks. Want to make a correction to Jenna Christmer. That was the foot of Jenna Christmer where the goal was disallowed for Penn State. The Lions leading 2-1. If that goal had been allowed, it'd be a 2-goal lead here for Penn State. Both teams switching sides. I asked you, we had talked about how these were two of the high-scoring offenses here in the conference. I said, did you expect more scoring? You said, I was expecting a little more of everything.
Well, I think it seems to be lacking a little bit of energy coming from both ends. You know, it's one team hasn't been completely dominant. There just really hasn't been, I think, a feel or swing to it. Changes coming in the second half, I'm not really sure. I think that Penn State has been far more productive with their press along the outside. I think they need to continue to do that. I think on Northwestern's end, I think their defense needs to be tighter marking. Leaving those open players inside the circle is not serving them well. Being mindful of Kelsey Amy, you see there Kelsey Thompson marking up on her tight. And then I just think Northwestern's midfield needs to move a little bit more. I think they need to have a lot more passing combos coming through there. And, you know, this is where Penn State's fitness and the speed that they play at really differentiates them from the rest of their competition. When they can go that full 70 minutes, they can contain the ball, they can possess the ball, and they can have the same quickness and style of play that they do in the first half.
You mentioned Kelsey Thompson there on Kelsey Amy. Coach Fuchs says she's one of the fittest players on this team. That's why we had to move her into the backfield to help mark Kelsey Amy through this afternoon.
Well, I think also characteristic of field hockey nowadays is that you're getting a lot more offensive backs too. And it's not necessarily a midfield and a defender right behind them in the backfield. You're getting some backs that are more offensive, that can wrap along the outsides and really get up into an attacking type of situation. So I think that requires a greater fitness level in your defense, which, you know, typically, stereotypically, you might not think that a defender needs to be in very good shape sometimes compared to a forward, but that's not true in this sport.
Julia Retzky taking her time on that self-start.
And also notice Penn State's forward line, how they're able to come back and help out the midfield and back tackling and adding the double team. Klingler right there, number 3 you see on Penn State's forward line. She allowed that ball to happen, came back for the double team, came up with it on the self-start, and then got the ball into play.
Sean Salidi trying to create there for Northwestern. She had a hat trick against Stanford earlier this season.
Yeah, and when asked about that, very early in the season, a freshman contributor, when asked about that, she goes, well, my stick was just in the right place at the right time. Very good hand-eye skill. And, you know, when a player is able to get tips and deflections like that, it goes to show their game sense, I think, and, you know, understanding where they need to be on the field.
Salidi hadn't scored until then. I mean, I guess that's how you bust open your college career in scoring. Just open up with a hat trick. Out of Jeffersonville, Pennsylvania. Hard tackle. Whitney Reddick.
Gebhardt doing a really nice job with sticking with the play. She gets the call after the first tackle, but continues to play on very quick. Recognize her body positioning and her coordination with her upper body and her lower body. She's really able to twist and turn and get herself in a beneficial situation and then find the open space behind the defenders. And she just contributes on so many levels, and one of them is allowing Penn State to be awarded these penalty corners.
Fourth penalty corner here for the Lions. A little bit of a different look on the attack. I don't think that was an intentional swing and miss.
It definitely wasn't. You heard the reaction of the crowd looking for a hit coming out because the Northwestern's defender was a tad bit close to Hannah Allison when she took that swing, and sometimes those sticks go flying out of hands, and that gets very dangerous.
Hannah Allison, her coach, said she can play any midfield position. Well, right now, Penn State with back-to-back corner opportunities. Remember, the Lions converting just at the end of the half to gain the lead. How about another? Penn State converting on its corners.
Well, Brittany Griswack, one of the skills that she adds to the corner offensive unit is the drag flick, and you see her coming in behind Hannah Allison, number 11 right there. Second option, almost you think it is, gets a nice low drag flick on that. Doesn't really get much lift on it, but just the unpredictability of where the ball was going allowed for that ball to be tipped in.
Griswack's 9th goal this season. Coach Fuchs said we can't give Penn State corner opportunities, and here we're seeing why.
A team that is very good at getting them and executing them. You know, it's one thing to get awarded these corners, but usually by the end of the season, you want to be converting on about 70% of your corners. So I think Penn State's in a good situation at this point in the season before they start Big Ten play, converting on the corners that they're awarded. And then the thing that I like about that too is that they're showing different looks. They're having the initial hit coming from Amy on the short side. They're doing the pass option to the right, getting a hit coming from the opposite post. After you start to read your opposing defense, you can start to experiment with things. And then getting the drag flick, I think it's a skill that is very lethal if you have the right players to pull it off.
2 of the 3 goals for Penn State coming off of corner opportunities. Here you look at Nikki Parsley from Northwestern. Comes Ashton Klingler. Right now is credited with the go-ahead score for Penn State. And there you see Kelsey Amy all the way back in the midfield. So how does Northwestern generate more offensive opportunities?
Well, I think they need to stream some type of man-up situations, player-up situations. I think they need to create the 2v1s. They need to start looking laterally as opposed to just looking up and down the field. I think they need to start swinging the ball a little bit more. I think they have to get their key players involved. I think we need to see more touches coming from Parsley. I think we need to see more touches coming from Armstrong. Thompson is pretty much out of the game with her eyes on Kelsey Amy at this point, but got to come up with some good tackles, sticking with the play, winning the 50-50 balls, getting the second chances.
So a 3-1 game in favor of Penn State. 26 minutes about to play here in the second half. Again, we have not called the name of Chelsea Armstrong much this afternoon. Stay with another opportunity. Another corner opportunity. And Armstrong is disgusted. The 6th quarter for Penn State. Penn State so far 2 of 5 in scoring opportunities. There you see the lead 6-1 here this afternoon.
When you're ready.
Shot wide, deflected. Nittany Griswack had another opportunity.
Well, Penn State going again with the drag flick option coming from Griswack. Tippers looking to have their sticks down inside the circle, and all line there, almost looking for the tip when she was right at the stroke mark.
Scouting report on Nittany Griswack, she can be very deceptive, not only with her passing skills, but here when she takes a shot. And this isn't going to feel good.
Well, the angle on the stick allows the ball to be deflected up. That's why we wear mouth guards in the sport. In high school, they do wear eye goggles. And, you know, also the thing with field hockey, you can get hit by the stick, the ball, another person's shoulder, elbow, anything like that. So the areas with which you can have contact with are numerous.
Have a few bruises, did you, in your career?
Surgeries.
Surgeries.
Reconstructive surgery.
And you're feeling the effects now.
You know, heart says yes, body says no, Lisa.
Mine says you still can do it. 3-1 here, Penn State. Corner success has been part of the storyline here for the Lions, and not a surprise storyline for Penn State. Kelsey Amy battling with Lisa McCarthy. Penn State will have another opportunity. Laura Gebhardt will start things.
Well, I like the word that you used, Lisa, and that was battling. Penn State's winning the 1v1 situations right now, and I think they're really pushing through the play, sticking with the play. Northwestern, I think sometimes in those situations is backing off a little bit. They need to really keep their stick, body, head down, and continue with it. Don't get frustrated if you don't get a call, and Penn State just really has their head down and their nose to the goal. The 1v1 battles is a huge discrepancy.
Well, Penn State has played a majority of this second half in its attacking zone. In Northwestern, how about this for a stat? 0 shots here for the second half.
Not typical of Northwestern's team, but this is very typical of Penn State's team. They're going to continue to push the pace, the speed. Once you stop that or disrupt that, that's where an opposing team is going to have opportunities and success. But I think Penn State's press has been very disciplined, and they're really doing a good job of taking away options, forcing Northwestern's backfield to make poor passes.
Northwestern averaging about 15 shots per game, but again, no shots here in the second half for the Cats, down, finding itself down with a 2-goal deficit.
That is a great ball there by Charlotte Martin. Got good vision on the upfield space, finding her forward line, carrying the ball out of the backfield. As a freshman, when you come in and have the capability to have composure over the ball coming out of your backfield, that's a very hard thing to kind of grow into. You don't see that from young players.
Northwestern's possession also seems to be a little bit lacking here in this half. Penn State at this point, do you still keep attacking?
Yeah, I think you do absolutely that, and we're also seeing a lot of players being rotated here up on the forward line. And I think with what Penn State's schedule was shaped like earlier this year, They had that very competitive non-conference early parts of the season. And then towards right before the start of Big Ten conference season, started to play in opponents where they were beating them 7-0, 8-0. So what does that allow? Players to get reps and to get minutes. And if you take a look at Penn State's roster, every single player that is eligible to play this year has at least played in 4 games. So I think that instills trust in the other team, in teammates, to have people come in, get minutes, get reps. You know, you can always have that fire plug, that spark to come off the bench. And Penn State's going to continue to press at the same pace and speed, but they might have different people doing that. And that's got to be really exciting as a coach to see players be able to come in and contribute and gain minutes.
Saw a couple of forwards there. Amanda D'Annunzio for Penn State. See Jenna Christmer getting some time. Exactly what you're talking about, rotating some people in, giving them some valuable playing time against a top 10 opponent here in Northwestern. We're under 20 minutes to play. The Cats have yet to find an offensive opportunity, a good offensive opportunity here in the second half. And here comes Penn State. Out by the hash marks. We'll have a timeout on the field. We took a look at Hannah Allison and Chelsea Armstrong. I want to remind you that BTN goes where you want, when you want it with BTN to Go, presented by Auto Owners Insurance. Watch live events and BTN original programming on your computer, tablet, or smartphone. BTN to Go available at no extra charge to subscribers who receive BTN participating video providers on their cable network. Visit btntogo.com, also available in the App Store. Northwestern with an opportunity.
Lisa McCarthy doing a great job with outletting the ball coming from their defensive 16-yard hit. They gained about 70 yards within 2 passes of each other. Outletted the ball, found Carolyn Tronson-Leedy on the forward line, almost a breakaway situation right there. Northwestern in good field positioning at this point. You need sometimes those big plays, those big goalie saves, big passes, things like that to instill some type of confidence, and you can start to feel the pace of Northwestern being escalated a little bit now. But Penn State, on the flip side with that, they're very good at recognizing that. And this is not a team that you can ever discount or discredit with their defense. As much as we talk about their offense, they're very disciplined and knowledgeable in their defensive end.
D'Annunzio leading the attack there for Penn State. And again, when one Northwestern player has the ball, it looks like there's always 2 white jerseys around it.
And Penn State has the ability to force you into a small space as well with that tactic.
Kelly Stump for Northwestern. Looking to create in the circle, and she will. The Cats will get a corner. Their second here in the afternoon.
Well, the most important on this corner is to execute it. Whatever play they have in mind, make sure that they get a good stick stop, that they get a good, low, hard, fast insertion pass. I think that it's instrumental to Northwestern right now to stay in this game if they execute on all the details and all the levels.
How agonizing is this? That agonizing. Northwestern with its second corner opportunity. Oh, got it! Oh, and it's a 3-2 game. Tara Puffenberger with the opportunity. There it is. Her 11th goal this season. A 1-goal deficit He had given the goal to Tara Puffenberger, but on further examination, Kara Lentz.
Puffenberger does a nice job with getting the shot off, but check out the foot of Caroline Trentolini. You see right there, hits her heel. And then Lisa McCarthy in good positioning off that far post situation. Hard to see without that slow motion replay, but if the ball does hit the foot of the attack inside the circle, that's actually a 16-yard hit coming out for the defense. Again, unless you had that slow motion capability in video review, it was very hard to see that. But a nice deflection, the ball's still coming at speed. Good deflection by McCarthy.
Northwestern taking advantage of its second penalty corner opportunity. So credit the goal to Lisa McCarthy, her second of the season. Makes it a 1-goal deficit, 3-2 here, with about 16 minutes left to play in this one. We almost, we thought, saw our second own goal.
It almost,
opportunity.
You know, it's so hard to see sometimes inside the circle, and that ball is traveling at such speed that a lot of stuff happens in a very short amount of time. And you'll see the officials when they call inside the circle, you know, their heads are constantly driving around and moving around because there's a lot of action, a lot of activity. You have sticks, balls, feet, bodies, so a lot of things can happen.
They need BTN to go on their smartphone in their pocket. Look at those replays. Tara Puffenberger.
And also Penn State's defense, when they apply the double team pressure, we call it channeling and zoning, and that's the person that has pressure on the ball, and they're going to channel or zone the attacker with the ball into that double team. So they're forcing you to go towards one of their players to add that tackle, and you travel sometimes in V's or L's, as we call it, keeping them contained. Penn State does it very well. They get the opposing team's head down, stick down, and they zone them and keep them into a certain section, as we see right here. Every time I think we've seen Northwestern touch the ball, especially in between the 25s, Penn State has that defensive presence and skill right now that benefit.
They always have the right numbers there defensively, it seems. Nikki Parsley, who was back after missing the 5 games, playing in the Junior Pan Am Games, winning the bronze medal down in Mexico. She was actually the U.S.'s top scorer.
She was playing on the forward line when she was with the U.S. team, and when asked Tracy Fuchs about her experience and her coming back, she said that Nikki really has confidence. Not that she didn't before, but when you compete at such a high international level, a lot of confidence in the game, and then you come back with such fresh knowledge that you can really take back to your team, whether that's field positioning, you know, things like that. And it's always nice to play with players from other teams across the country. You know, looking at pictures that she has from her trips overseas, she's had a dynamite time competing, and a lot of future promise for that player in the national level.
Parsley finding Tara Puffenberger there. And a penalty corner coming up, Northwestern's third. So it was Parsley to Puffenberger which created that opportunity.
Hey, be tough here. Let's get strong.
Northwestern targeting Puffenberger on its last corner attempt. How about Chelsea Armstrong? She had been quiet all day, except there, ties it up.
Some of the skill sets that Chelsea Armstrong contains is her hit and her quick release, but also her sweep. And not exactly getting a direct drive on the ball, but you see her choke her hands up there, gets a nice touch, and it's really all about timing in between your hitter and your stick stopper. Chelsea Armstrong read it well, got the ball into good space, and got a good sweep on the ball. Sweep is the more accurate skill in field hockey compared to the hit. Finding in between the post and the goaltender's hands. A very tricky spot to find. It's very acute and accurate. Chelsea Armstrong makes it look so easy.
Big Ten leading 17th goal this season, ties it up at 3. Six goals is probably what we were kind of expecting at the start of this one.
Well, you know, it's been interesting to see Northwestern get themselves back into the game all off of their corners. Both teams exhibit very nicely executed corners, and it's really important that you really finite the details in this offensive unit. You see here Hannah Allison, number 6, setting up with Brittany Griswack behind her.
7th penalty corner for Penn State. And just like that, the Lions take the lead.
Well, we haven't seen many swings coming off of Hannah Allison, but this is a player that's been contributing on that corner offensive unit dating back to last year. She netted the game winner, the Big Ten tournament final against Michigan. This may very well be the game winner in this game. Getting a good strike on the ball, keeping the head down. Such a fast-paced ball that was hit at.
6th goal of the year for Allison, the redshirt senior. And it's suddenly a back-and-forth scoring game. We got under 12 to play. Hannah Allison, her coach, says she can play any midfield position. Targeted there on that corner opportunity.
And I think this is a player that brings in a lot of knowledge and experience to the Penn State team. She started in every game in 2011. She's instrumental in the center backfield, very communicative, and that's probably why she's sporting the captain band around her legs. She's extremely disciplined, a very hard worker, and then from what I've seen of her this season, I think she's smart, and I think she controls the middle of the backfield very well. And also coming up in clutch situations. You know, when your team's tied at 3-3 and you have your captain defender stepping up to the plate at top of the circle, who do you expect or want to perform? Somebody like Hannah Allison.
Credit Whitney Reddig and Jenna Christmer with the assists on Allison's goal. And those were just bang, bang goals, bang, bang opportunities. Talk about this. Watch out for Kelsey Amy and her speed. Oh! Ashton Klingler with an opportunity there in front of the net.
Well, I don't think any of the Northwestern defenders actually saw Klingler coming in on the weak side. And if you see this, Kelsey Amy is going to go on a direct angle. 3 of the Northwestern defenders, which are at her screen now, are slopping down on Amy. They're sliding down on her, leaving Klingler open on the far left post. Late games, I think this was key for Northwestern. You have to play smart. That includes being aware of the players that are making cuts behind you, leaving opportunities like that.
You could just see Kelsey Amy's speed. She could just play the ball into space for herself and create an opportunity where she can run onto it. Jenna Christmer there. And recorded an assist earlier trying to create.
And the thing about Amy, you know, she only takes about 2 or 3 touches actually on the ball. She puts the ball into space and she runs onto it, and she can eliminate defenders so effectively with that skill.
Chelsea Armstrong, the big gun here for Northwestern. Had the game-tying goal at 3-3.
And Northwestern, a little frustration right there, looking for the corner call. Thought the foul actually occurred inside the circle. Notice Penn State's 2 defenders coming towards the ball, 3 defenders coming towards the ball with against a skilled player like Parsley.
And a 16-yard hit here for Penn State. How about that tackle? Kelly Stump battling, working her way in the corner. She needs some help.
Well, without Paul Meyer in the game over the past probably 60 minutes. She probably left about after 10 minutes coming into the game. Stump has been in here and has been contributing and working on that forward line. Starting to notice a little bit of the fatigue starting to happen. This is where Northwestern's press, I think, is very important, is when they have it in their offensive end, and they need to contain the ball here. Stump is doing a really nice job with working almost overtime because they have one less player rotating in that forward line.
Stump, one of those freshmen that Northwestern plays. 2 shots for her this afternoon. 5 to 6 rookies get significant playing time here for the Wildcats. Chelsea Armstrong. Penn State has, for the most part, kept her quiet. You see she's trying to take 1-on-2.
Armstrong is extremely effective at creating distance from her and her defender, and she does it with quick little steps, quick little movement. She's a very fast player, almost deceptively fast. And then she's going to go baseline and end line, and look at the discipline that she has over the ball. Quick little touches on it. A very hard player to defend against when they're unpredictable like that. The ability to find the defender's feet inside the circle is a very an acute skill that Armstrong possesses.
She's been efficient, though, scored 1 goal on 2 shots. Here's another corner opportunity and another opportunity for Armstrong. How about that?
Like you said, Lisa, it was a name that we heard much in the beginning part of this game, has really come along during the later part of it. Hey, you know what? If the goal that you scored on worked, what should you do?
Do it again.
Let's try it again. And Armstrong, again, the timing that she has with her stick stopper, getting the one touch on it, setting her feet up and her body up for that hard sweep, looking for that corner, nicely done by the 5th-year senior.
3 shots today, 2 goals here for Chelsea Armstrong. Her 18th of the season, that leads the Big Ten. Kelsey Amy and Chelsea Armstrong actually came into today's game tied at points at 36, deadlocked. That was first in the Big Ten. Armstrong is now stepped ahead of her with this performance. But again, you see Chelsea Armstrong making the most of her opportunities off of the set pieces here
And
for Northwestern.
Northwestern coming up with 3 goals off of their corners, all in the second half, and those 3 goals happen. Having the discipline in the later part of the game is important. And when you want people stepping into a role, it's people like Chelsea Armstrong, the 5th-year seniors, the team's leading scorer, the school's all-time leading scorer, stepping in and executing.
And Amanda Worth in the cage for Northwestern. She's getting the start. Only played 2 games this season, getting the start because Maddie Carpenter injured herself in the warm-ups. She finds herself with under 5 minutes to play here, tied 4-4. Under 5 minutes to play, what do you expect each of these teams to do here in crunch time?
Just play with pace, play with speed, be smart with your ball distribution skills, with your decision making. And this is really gut check time with under 5 minutes left to go. A lot of goal scoring happening, and you got to check in.
Northwestern, its last 3 shots. How about 3 scores on those last 3 shots? And suddenly we're tied at 4. The Cats were down by as many as 2 goals here this afternoon. Penn State coming into this one on a win streak, winning its last 7 games here for the Lions. Northwestern spending some time in Ohio, losing And an upset victory for the Buckeyes, losing 3-2 to Ohio State, rebounding against Ohio, winning 2-1, trying to pick up its first Big Ten win here this afternoon. Its conference home opener.
And they're going to do that in regulation. Now, looking at the clock with 3 minutes left to go, if that doesn't happen, overtime rules, 2 15-minute sudden victory overtimes. First goal to score wins the game. If they're still tied after those 2 stanza, it's an interesting situation now. It's a shootout, but it's not through strokes or, as people might acquaint it to, penalty kicks. It's actually through 1v1 situations with the goalie coming from the 25-yard line. Only team I've really seen it with this season is Indiana. They've had 2 shootouts so far this season. So if that were to happen, it's a very rare occasion, but a very exciting one.
We still have about 2.5 to play before we get to that. Tied up at 4. Each of these teams scored 2 pretty quick goals to knot it up at 1. Early in this game, and then it's been exciting here in the second half. Both teams have to be careful not to have a costly turnover here, approaching the 2-minute mark. With the kick save, Penn State will get a corner opportunity.
And you're seeing the Northwestern defenders having some disagreement with the referee. I think they were looking for the fact that this ball was actually lifted, which it was by Hannah Allison. If a ball is lifted in dangerous territory like that, it should be a hit coming out for the defense. And you saw Tronsoliti there kind of limping, which goes to show that she was, in fact, struck in the body. Now, if it's a 1v1 situation where it's just a person with the ball going against the goalkeeper, you have no rule on the range and height that you can hit the ball at. That's where it's legal.
1 minute to play. Penn State with the corner opportunity, tied up at 4. What do you expect to see here? You've seen a ton of their corners. What has worked for them?
Well, Hannah Allison, I think, has done a nice job later in the games on the penalty corner units. Look to use her as an option. Haven't seen many touches coming from Kelsey Amy. Possibly an option pass or direct hit.
Here it is, a penalty opportunity. You mentioned that the clock has been reset to 1:30, but take another look at this.
Almost deflected off of Penn State's, Northwestern's defender, looking for the second own goal or third own goal of the game.
Another corner opportunity here for Penn State, the 9th here of the afternoon, with 1 minute to play. Timeout.
Timeout, Penn State.
Coaches want to talk things over. How about a revisit of last year when it went into OT?
Corners also proving to be a big part of this game. Chelsea Armstrong netting 2 of those goals coming off the corner unit. Does this play look familiar? Yeah, kind of. Coming from a direct hit from Chelsea Armstrong in the top of the circle, but Taylor Harold really proving strong in the later part of the game. A nice little one-timer, setting herself up in front of the net in that overtime victory. I think when you start to look at this overtime and the comparison between the 2 teams, Penn State is very physically fit. Northwestern has a good ability to spread the field with very short, few number of passes. So those are some differences that you've seen in these 2 teams and the style of play. Executing on the set pieces is really, I think, what's going to be divide who's going to win this game.
We got 58 seconds to play. We're looking at another corner opportunity. We want to remind you, too, that tomorrow it's a great doubleheader of action. First at noon for football. Conference play kicks off in Evanston. Wildcats battle Indiana, then Purdue takes on Marshall. All starts with the pregame show at 11 Eastern tomorrow, followed by the kickoff at noon on BTN. Take a look at Kelsey Amy. Held scoreless here this afternoon. Could this be her moment to break the tie?
Now, if Kelsey Amy is going to get the ball on the short side, she's going to shift down closer to the inserter.
Opportunity for Amy.
And you see her being a little bit further away from the battery system. Nice job with executing the shot. What a save by Northwestern's goalkeeper, getting a nice stick save.
Amanda Worth with the save. That was Kelsey Amy's 6th shot of the afternoon. And we're locked at 4, 30 seconds to play. With overtime lurking, 20 seconds to go. Penn State with perhaps a final opportunity.
Well, Northwestern doing a nice job right now in these 1v1 situations, applying that defensive pressure.
Talk about 1v1. Here comes Chelsea Armstrong trying to beat the clock and beat Penn State. Won't happen. We're headed to an extra session.
And you can sense the exhaustion coming from Chelsea Armstrong, having those nice last couple of plays, sprinting up the field and just trying for that one last desperate chance coming from Armstrong. But performing in the later part of the game has been really impressive about that player, and I think speaks to the type of player that she is on this Northwestern team.
Oh, let's play some more, shall we? How about Chelsea Armstrong? Thanks to her, we're all tied up at 4 and headed to an extra session. You knew that this would be fun to play in. 2 top 10 teams, 2 of the top scoring teams here in the Big Ten, 8 goals total. The 4 goals actually the most allowed this season by Penn State.
And that's something that's really jumps out and is surprising. Not very typical, but when you're facing Chelsea Armstrong in a corner unit like Northwestern's.
Oh, and just like that, we're done. Chelsea Armstrong ends it.
Northwestern goal, score number 3, Chelsea Armstrong.
Well, we talked about how Northwestern wasn't minding some of the Penn State open forwards when they were in the offensive end. And look at the shock that Penn State's sideline have. Chelsea Armstrong in good positioning inside the circle, and I'm not even sure if Ayla Hallis really saw the tip coming off the ball by Armstrong. Had a nice reach, one-handed on the stick. Puffenberger, nice job with distributing inside, gets that shot off, and then a diving effort by Armstrong. One hand on the stick, left hand at the top, all unattended, gets in front of Ayla Hallis. Great placement and effort by Armstrong and Puffenberger.
12 seconds in to sudden victory overtime, and count it for Chelsea Armstrong. A hat trick for the senior. She is our today's pure silk performance of the game. 4 shots, 3 goals. That's efficient.
Armstrong coming up huge for the Wildcats. It's also big for Northwestern at home, which traditionally has not been that strong at home. I think this sets a good footing for Northwestern as they enter the remainder of their schedule and season playing at Lakeside Field.
Fitting that NU's all-time leading score would lead them to victory. A top 10 matchup done. Northwestern beating Penn State in overtime, 5